setup checklist condition of engineer first accepted locomotive for the engine house and previous shift. Lead locomotive setup. Insert brake level handling an independent brake valve and move to full applied position if not already in the position. Depress handle of the MU2A valve. Move to lead position if not already in position. Apply automatic brake valve handle to the valve brake and release in running position if not already applied in the position. Check feed valve. Verify that it's set at 80 psi. Reset if necessary. Trailing locomotive setup. Check to see if the locomotive is already set up for the trailing position. If not, proceed with the checklist. Fully applied independent brake with automatic brake valve. Make full of the service brake pipe reduction. Depress handle of the pit off pilot valve. Move it to the out position. Put automatic brake valve into the hand off position. Remove handle. Depress handle in the MU2A valve. Move to trail 26 position. Move independent brake valve handle to the release position. Remove handle, and all locomotives consist of angle cocks or proper position with locomotive units. MU hoses and cables are properly coupled between units. Brake valve out cocks are in the out position and open all units except for the controlling unit. Locomotive engine brake test for the unit. One unit for MUs. The test should be conducted before engineers must move the locomotive. The equipment shall be charged to main reservoir pressure of 130 to 140 psi. Ensure handle brakes are applied and wheel chocks, and ensure generator field switches in the off position. Reverse handle in reverse, in which is known as the neutral. Push reverse handle into neutral. Ensure brake pipe and MU hoses are properly coupled if applicable. Ensure angle and cutout cocks are properly positioned. Apply the independent brake and confirm brakes on all units that have applied, depending on all the module and on one of the following. The test procedure for the locomotives in type 6RL and 24RL. Release the independent brake. Confirm brakes on all units have been released. Brake the 10 psi reduction and automatic brake valve. Confirm that the brakes have been applied. Move that the automotive brake to the lap. 1 minute. Brake pipe BP leakage shall not exceed 5 psi a minute, excluding reservoirs built not exceed 1 psi a minute. Depress independent brake value hand to 4 seconds a unit and confirm brakes have been released. Make additional brake pipe reduction. Confirm brakes have been released. Move the throttle to the number 3 position. Engine RPM increases. Move the brake valve handle to emergency brake pipe. Pressure drops to 0. Brake cylinder pressure to increase. Power control light come on. Engine RPM reduces to idle and depresses the engine. Depresses the independent brake valve handle to 4 seconds a unit. Confirm that the brakes have been released. Release the independent brake valve handle. Move through idle to the idle position and automatic brake valve to the lap. Wait 1 minute. Move one brake valve to the release brake pipe. Pressure restored. Proper control light goes out. Confirm pressure has been released. Confirm brake system has been recharged. Move auxiliary emergency brake valve to the emergency. Confirm the brakes has been applied. Restore that the auto brake valve has to the releasing and the running position. Confirm that the brakes that have been released. Move independent brake valves to full application. Test procedures for locomotive type 26 series. Below is the charter is release. Number 1, release the independent brakes, confirming all units have been released. 2, make 10 psi brake pipe reduction with the automatic brake valve, confirming the brakes have been applied. That move the brakes valve to cut out valve to out position with 1 minute. BP breakage leakage should not exceed 5 psi a minute. Equalizing reservoir shall not show any leakage. Move automatic brake valve to reduction. Equalize reservoir buildup not to exceed 1 psi a minute, and press independent brake valve 4 seconds a unit. Confirm brakes has been released. The brake cut out of the valve to the end and to the front position. Move the additional brake valve in reduction, brake pipe reduction. Confirm the brakes have been released. Move throttle to number 3 position. Engine RPM increase. Move automatic brake valve handle to the emergency. Brake pipe pressure to drop to 0. Brake cylinders pressures to increase power control comes on to light. Engine RPMs reduce to idle. Depress independent brake valve 4 seconds unit. Confirm brakes have been applied. Release independent brake value. Confirm brakes have been reapplied. Move the throttle idle position. Wait 1 moment. Move the automatic brake valve to release. Brake pipe restored. Pressure and power control lights go out. Confirm brakes have been released. Recharge brake system. More auxiliary emergency brake valve to the emergency. Confirm brakes have been applied. Restore automatic brake valve to the release and running position. Confirm brakes have been released. Move independent brake valve to the full application. C. Train line air brake tester initial terminals. After the locomotive has coupled the cars to be moved and brake line connected, the train line must be charged with approximately 5 minutes for every 10 cars. When charging a train, the main reserve pressures are maintained at about 100 pounds or more. To obtain a condition, it may be necessary to generate field switch into the off position, and to play reverse and neutral and advance the throttle beyond the idle position. The test can be started and brake pipe air pressure is in locomotive has exceeded 65 psi for 5 minutes, and make a 15-pound service reduction automatic. Brake valve wait for exhaust cease. The brake valve out of the valve to the out position. Wait 1 minute. Check for the brake leakage does not exceed 5 psi per minute. Observe that the brake pipe pressure indicator gauge goes from 1 minute. Inspection of the train shall be made during determine angle cock and properly positioned brake is applied for each car. Braking rigging does not bind on full or parts of braking equipment is properly secured. And after all brakes have been inspected application, they should be released and the entire train checked to confirm that all brakes have released. Train line air brake test road and intermediate test. Whenever the car is added to the cut of the cars and release cars, a set and a release brake test shall be made before proceeding, making a 15-pound service reduction and confirm that the brakes are at least set on the last car. Checking the brake pipage for the leakage perf 3.4. C. Release the brake handle. Release the brakes and confirm the brakes have been released on the last car. The train handling. 5. Proper freight train handling is also for operating prevention damage, track structure, equipment lighting. Although present slack is required in order to start a train 1 car at a time, and severe slack's attention that cause a more serious avoidable damage. Even though the slack action cannot be eliminated, it can be controlled as to avoid and prevent personal injury to train crew members. Locomotive maximum continuous amperage limits beyond the damage to the traction motor or manual generator alternator or may result. The manufacturer manuals contain of amperage in some cases in their faces of amperage when the operating beyond the continuous amperage limits does not exceed the time limit specified by locomotive by being operated. Starting a train. The method of starting a train shall and take in consideration makeup of the train and grade conditions. Judicious planning and conductor is essential grades of train loads and the forces that use the multiple units, reduction of the train size, multiple moves, or selected service brake, air condition, release, automatic independent. After all brakes have been released, open the throttle position notch 1 and note that the ammeter of the damper is increasing after 2 seconds, and 3 seconds the throttle may be advanced to 2 if additional N is needed to start the train. When locomotives may be necessary for regulating starting speed and using the independent valve and standards in locomotives moving as slow as a uniform speed about 1 mile per hour, entire train is moving, and it is necessary that it stretch the bunch of the train to an indirect opposite into intended movement to a purpose, starting 1 car at a time. If a train does not follow these procedures, check the sticking air brakes. Does it not advance to the throttle without amperage is increasing and as indicating an amateur? Well, wait until the train is observed in the power from the present throttle position. Reduce the throttle if there is an indication of wheel slippage. Apply and require or prevent the wheel to slip. Sand. Carefully shake whenever the train is. Care shall be taken whenever train is started in a curve. The power must be started train using the throttle to start the train. An advanced throttle shall be made used at a notch at a time, 1 notch at a time, since abrupt increases draft, buff forces, or curve may generate excessive inward lateral forces and result in streamlining of curve or the cause of enough to shift the track and turn the rail over and result in derailment. In figure 3.16, which illustrates how draft buff a force affect the train movement, the locomotive has moved a distance equal to the length of the train. An entire train moving at the speed of 1 mile per hour can be started. A service automatic train line braking. A lane level terrain may intake brake pipe reduction of 5 to 8 psi while maintaining power, keeping the locomotive brakes released. The automatic brakes become effective throughout the train, gradually reducing the throttle, maintain sufficient to keep the train stretched, properly reducing the throttle, always ensuring the draft buff forces, and keep the minimum of the ammeter carefully during the speed reduction, stopping if the excessive amperage draw reduces throttle 1 at the top of it in time to prevent excessive traction motor amperage. Additional light brake reductions and may be made to continue the slow train, keeping the locomotive brakes and the total brake pipe reduction of the not less than 10 psi should be made to ensure the train brakes with fully released later. Shopping for a final stopping may a final brake piping reduction just prior to stopping. Allow the locomotive brake to apply with the final application. Place the throttle in the idle and fully apply the independent brake after the train comes to a stop. When necessary for reduction achieved, the train becomes a release to turn train speed high enough to allow the brakes fully to release and train spread about 10 miles per hour. After placing the automatic brake valve in release, gradually reduce the power so that afterdraft forces remain in the same safe level from the train as in the train releasing. 3.16 shows buffer sources, direction of trail, and draft forces directions. Since the train will slow, the train brakes release. The brake valve shall be placed in the release position where speed fails and desired and fully executed train will release on the rear end of the just train slow as desired. Ascending grades on light ascending and right braking approximately the same or level terrain to stop. Ascending grades reduce the throttle in 1 notch time until the speed is approximately 5 miles per hour. Close throttle about 3 miles per hour while making a train brake pipe reduction will keep the train stretched, generally at 15 psi reductions, and hold the independent locomotive brake release and the train stop as fully independent brake after stopping. The goal to minimize the train buff and slack changes. Slow down the heavily ascending, reduce throttle one position at a time. Desire to speed attained, the use of service may not be necessary. Descending grades following. For slowing and stopping and descending, it may be necessary for the train bunch to reduce the power, to reduce before the following brake steps described in 4-level training. After service brake is released, it is necessary for a sufficient independent brake to prevent reverse buff and draft forces, slack changes, and the service brakes release. Emergency braking occurs when the braking is open in the atmosphere, resulting in a rapid reduction of brake pressure to zero. The act is called dumping and busting the air, and the crew members shall only apply emergency braking when stopped to be made as quickly as possible. Extremely high buff or draft forces will occur during emergency braking. Emergency braking occurs in 3 situations: when an engineer places the auto brake into an emergency position, when a crew member actively an auxiliary brake valve, or when the brake pipe or air brake hose separates. When emergency brake has been applied due to the brake pipe and air hose position, engineer immediately bail out. The engineer should immediately bail off, push down the independent brake lever with place the automatic brake valve in emergency position, leave it to the position of the train until the train stops. Most locomotives automatically dispense sand during emergency braking. If locomotive does not automatically dispense sand until the train stops, place the throttle and idle. After the emergency application has occurred for any reason, the crew shall not reset the brakes, move the train, or has completed and inspected the maintenance personnel from which causes the application identified and corrected, and after it has been inspected for corrected the automatic brake valve, return to the running position of release and the brakes. The track inspector shall inspect the track to ensure to determine if emergency applications created a track damage, shifting track, kenning of the rail, or debris of the rail. D. Independent braking stops. Independent locomotive brakes only. Independent should be, if possible, braking should only be used extremely slow speeds with light loads of emergencies, or with light loads or emergencies. Stop, slows down should be made with automatic brakes when practicable. When independent brakes are used slowly and stop a train, very little pressure should be used until the train slack and has closed against the locomotive and moved in out of back movement is being moved. Independent brakes should be controlled to prevent wheels from sliding and to prevent brake shoes damage. Independent brakes alone should not always be made stop, slow down, or when speed trains is more than 15 miles per hour. Under normal conditions, the independent brake shall only be applied when the throttle is in the idle position. The independent brake valve, when conditioned multi-unit, should always be in time. The handle and be depressed, blocked and release position. The independent brake shall fully be left in the position and prevent in locomotive moving for fueling. Anytime the locomotive is left standing, the independent brake shall be accepted during the maintenance of the brakes. In case of independent brakes cannot be applied, the locomotive shall be chained to the track. Speed control. The train shall operate the speed limits in the track and being traversed. However, additional speed issues and closely monitored. On cars of the truck, spacing of equal rail length, approximately 39 feet, the critical speed with which a car will encounter low joints harmony with the normal frequency. The train traveling in critical speed harmonic rail rock and roll motion can build up to a point where it will lift off and occur, and derailment can result. The critical speed of 13 to 20 miles per hour range. The critical speed should avoid possible reduced risk of harmonic rock and roll derailments. When necessary, become critical speed. Engineer shall be planned ahead and avoid speed by going slower or faster. The critical speeds can be determined by observing the rail. Crew members shall be locked out of excessive rocking and indicate harmonic rock and roll is imminently. The engineer shall take appropriate action if there is a problem. Use of sand. The principal factors affect of traffic of locomotive adhesion that stops, altering, maintaining, slowing, stopping, conditioning of railway, and the largest effect of adhesion on cost effects of contaminating rail, oil, dirt, water, snow, ice, insect, other substances. Most locomotives are equipped with sanders to deliver the sand to the rails. The sand increase in adhesion to locomotives is the most conditional presence and following cautions as applied to using sand. The sand shall be restricted to minimum amount of necessary excuses of sand and defects intended purpose. The sand shall be avoided in derailment risk from increasing curve and resistance and resulting in higher lateral forces. Sanding shall be prevented in wheel slip rather than correct. Extreme emergency brake needs to be applied when brake system has failed, when occurs following an emergency thing. Place the idle and place reverse opposite direction. Place the throttle number 1 notch only. A locomotive shall not be reversed or while moving except to the stop locomotive. Extremely emergency situation. This procedure will result in traction motor and wheels and should only be used as the last resort to avoid accidents. 6. Radio procedures. A railroad operation shall have dedicated frequency. No other organization shall be using the railroad assigned frequency. Radio frequencies assigned railroad crews shall be used for a conduction railroad. As required by Navy Sea Op. 5, all radios of railroad operations ordinance shall be HERO certified. HERO hazardous or electronic radiation to the ordinance. A sticker indicating HERO certification shall be attached to the radio. No person shall use the radio without HERO certificate sticker. Employees shall keep the radios on position with the sector switch of the proper channel, the volume adjusted to receive the communication. Each radio should be tested by using support. Railroad operations shall consist of exchange voice transmission with another station. Other stations will advise station conducting to test the quality of the rateability of the transmission. Before transmitting, an employee shall listen into a certain channel is not in use. And a radio is a function improperly shall be reported to the railroad dispatcher or designated authority. Employees shall not knowingly transmit or false communications, any unnecessary, irrelevant, unidentified communication, nor utter any obscene, indecent, profane language via radio. All transformation radio shall be clearly concise, manner to confusion, excessive transmission time. To indicate the transmission is ended, the responses is expected. The transmission employee should say over to indicate the transmission is ended. No response expected. The transmission employee shall restate the identification said out. All transmissions should start with clear identification who's making transmission name, position, and then if in the local train and the train identified, if applicable, from the transmission is being made to those who name the position, location, and train identity. If applicable, the train is directed after positive indication is established. Employees use an abbreviated indications when being used in control made of locomotive transmission. Locomotive shall have a locomotive number. When radio is being used in performing switching, employee direction and movement shall contain contact. Employee receiving instruction that they doubt the meaning of the instruction or the employee from which they such instruction. Instead, movement shall be stopped and shall not resume until instruction understood. Switching back and pushing movement distance and shall be stated in 50-foot car length. The engineer shall not movement of 1/2 of speed specified distance unless additional directions are received. Transmission are ordered radio. Train orders are by radio. Train orders shall be transmitted by radio when authorized by a local railroad operative directive by most transmitted in accordance directive. The procedure, transmission ordinance, and railroad dispatchers designated representative as follows. Before training is transmitted, the conductor can copy the train order. Shall they be prepared to receive the train order, the conductor shall state that his name, identification cards, and call signal and location. Train orders shall not be on the crew for moving train when, in the judgment of the conductor, engineer, train dispatcher, the train order can be received and impair self in operation of the train. Conductor shall copy train orders for the format prescribed in the local railroad operation directive. After the train have occupied, it should be immediately occupied entirely, verifying occupancy, and repeatedly. Train orderly dispatch designated representatively shall complete the time and the initials of the conductors. The conductor's train orders shall then acknowledge the repeating and completing and the time. And before a train order is acted upon the train, the conductor shall have a written copy of the train order and shall ensure that the train order is read and understood by other members of the crew. The train which is not to be complied, which does not comply with the requirements of operating rules, shall not be acted upon. Information containing train orders shall not be acted upon by persons other than those whom the train order is addressed. Recommended phonetic alphabet: Alpha A. B for Bravo, C for Charlie, D for Delta, E for Echo, F for Foxtrot, G for Golf, H for Hotel, I for India, J for Juliet, K for Kilo, L for Lima, M for Mike, N for November, O for Oscar, P for Papa, Q for Quebec, R for Romeo, S for Sierra, T for Tango, U for Uniform, V for Victor, W is in Whiskey, X in X-ray, Y is in Yankee, and Z is in Zulu. Zulu should be written in Z as Z, distinguishing the numeral 2. Recommended precaution numerals. The distinguishment numbers of similar sounded words that figures should have been used in the preceding numbers. Numbers should be pronounced like this: 0, 1, and 2, 3. Through 3, 4 in power, 5 is in 5, 6 is in 6, 7 in 7, 8 is in 8, and 9 is in 9er. The figure shall be resounded in 0 and distance for the letter 0. The figure 1 shall be underlined distinguished in letter I. The rules shall be required the numbers should be spelled. These decent does not apply. The following illustrates the pronunciation of the numerals: 44 Fowler and Fowler, Browner and 1000, Wolf and Fowler, and Niner and Niner, 20 decimal Theon Rao, Thurian Re, 5 is in 5e and 100, 1 and 600. 44, 1000, 14, 899, 2030, decimal 3, 500, and 1500. Here considerations refer to the local railroad operation directive concerning railroad transmissions in the vicinity of explosives. Emergency transmission. Emergencies preceded in the word of emergency transmitted 3 times shall consist essentially information can be only to cover initial reports of serious injuries, derailments, collisions, fires, and other accidents which pose to risk personal or property. Dispatching. Train dispatch is designed to represent all and show all sole authority to dispatch all train and railroad equipment, issues and receive train orders, grants, clearances, control all movement of the rail assignment system. Dispatchment trains, locomotives shall be recorded either electronically or movementally according to locomotive railroad operational directive. The purpose of recording this movement is twofold: to help one, overcoming the shift of location railway equipment, and two, who having history of the railway equipment move of mishap investigation. If absolutely blocks are used, dispatcher shall ensure position is only granted when it is safe to do so. 8. Crew size. All train crews shall consist of at least 3 personnel, an engineer, conductor, and a breaker or switcher. Crew size shall reduce except for when written and waiver has been granted by installation commander, and request shall include operations. The reason why reduction in the crew is necessary. The waiver requests that it is shall also number in cars handled in railway cars, which shall switch procedures time sensitive and in environmental conditions. The installation commander shall not grant the waiver until the review is conducted. Hazardous material, Navy activity, significant quantity. 9. Hazardous material prevention.